Coco Gauff reveals she had Jannik Sinner in her mind when she picked her hairstyle for Australian Open. Coco Gauff had a good enough 2025 season after playing at the WTA Finals. She claimed her first French Open title, added several other achievements like winning the Wuhan Open trophy, and also won the Canadian Open doubles title with McCartney Kessler. However, her Australian Open record hasn't been that great. Now, the 21-year-old is trying to make a statement in the first Grand Slam of the year with a bold new hairstyle, inspired by defending AO champion Jannik Sinner. Coco Gauff channels Jannik Sinner's luck ahead of Australian Open. Over the years, Gauff has tried different hairstyles. She has experimented with different braided looks, like her famous honey blonde braids at the 2024 Wimbledon, curly looks, and so on. This time, she tried a new ginger look. In December 2025, Gauff posted a mirror selfie on her Instagram story where she revealed her new burnt orange braids. In the caption she wrote, "First time trying this color, I'm obsessed." The new look also ties in with her work off the court, as she signed a multi-year deal with New York-based hair care brand Carol's Daughter. Meanwhile, when the American star was recently asked how it feels to be a ginger, now during a press conference ahead of the Australian Open, she laughed and made a playful reference to men's world number 2 Sinner, who has been very successful in Melbourne. "It feels good," Gauff said. "I thought it would help me out considering there's another ginger doing really well. So maybe it'll give me some luck because he has a pretty good record here and I don't. So we'll see." Sinner's record at the Australian Open backs up her words. The Italian owns a 22-4 record at the tournament. He made his debut in the tournament in 2020, and after exiting in the initial rounds in the first 2 years, he went up to the quarterfinals in 2022 and the fourth round in 2023, and now he is the two-time defending champion of AO. How Gauff has done at the Australian Open so far. Contrary to Sinner, Gauff has had mixed performances in the Australian Open over the years. So far, she has a 16-6 win-loss record at the event. Gauff's best run in Melbourne came in 2024, when she reached the semi-finals, which was her deepest finish at the Australian Open so far. However, her overall results show how she has grown over time and become more consistent each season. Coco Gauff, Amanda Anisimova, Ben Shelton, Taylor Fritz headline 38 Americans battling in Australian Open singles. She reached the fourth round on her debut in 2020 but then exited in the second round in 2021 and suffered an early first-round loss in 2022. Since then, her performances have improved, with another fourth round in 2023, a semi-final run in 2024, and a quarter-final finish in 2025. Gauff will begin her 2026 Australian Open campaign on January 19 against Kamila Rakimova. Seeded third. Whether the new hairstyle brings extra success in Melbourne is yet to be seen. Coco Gauff's braids of thought, when inspiration crossed the net. The morning Melbourne woke up warm and golden, Coco Gauff sat quietly before a mirror that reflected more than her face. It reflected memory, admiration, rivalry, and the peculiar way athletes borrow energy from one another even when they stand on opposite sides of the net. As her hairstylist's fingers moved with practiced rhythm, weaving intention into every braid, Coco smiled softly and said something that surprised even herself later. "Jannik Sinner was on my mind." At first glance, it sounded playful, almost accidental. What could an American tennis star's Australian Open hairstyle possibly have to do with the calm, red-haired Italian known for his icy composure and machine-like precision? But creativity rarely moves in straight lines. It loops, overlaps, and sometimes crosses courts. For Coco, tennis has never been only about forehands and footwork. It has always been about expression. From the moment she burst onto the global stage as a fearless teenager, she understood that sport is also storytelling. Every outfit, every hairstyle, every walk onto the court is a sentence in a longer narrative about who you are and who you are becoming. Jannik Sinner, in Coco's mind, represented something specific, focus without noise. She had watched him play, the way he carried himself with minimal theatrics, letting his game speak in a clean, almost architectural language. No wasted motion. No excess. Just intent. In a tournament as loud and demanding as the Australian Open, That kind of clarity felt magnetic. Coco didn't want to copy him. She wanted to echo the feeling he embodied. Her hairstyle became the medium. The braids were sleek, deliberate, and structured. They weren't just fashionable, they were functional. They stayed out of her face, didn't move when she sprinted, didn't distract when the points stretched into exhausting rallies under the Melbourne sun. Each braid felt like a line of code written for performance. In that sense, they mirrored the way Coco saw Sinner's game: efficient, elegant, and unbothered. But there was also something deeper at play. Coco Gauff has grown up under bright lights. Expectations arrived early and never left. She learned young that creativity, for her, was survival. When pressure tried to flatten her, she responded with self-expression. Hairstyles became armor. They reminded her that she still had agency, that even in a sport governed by rules and rankings, she could choose how she showed up. Thinking about Sinner helped sharpen that choice. Not because he was watching or because she wanted to impress, but because he symbolized a mental state she wanted to step into. Grounded. Ruthless in focus. When Coco stepped onto Rod Laver Arena, she wasn't just carrying a racket. She was carrying an idea. Play with intention, block out the chaos, and trust the work. The crowd saw confidence. Cameras caught the shine of the braids under stadium lights. Commentators talked about form, fashion, and flair. But inside Coco's head, the hairstyle was a quiet conversation between two competitors who might never speak about it directly. That's the strange beauty of elite sport. Inspiration doesn't always come from coaches or childhood heroes. Sometimes it comes from watching someone your own age handle pressure in a way that challenges you to evolve. Coco and Jannik represent a generation that grew up online, studied each other from afar, and learned across borders without ever sharing a practice court. Her creativity wasn't loud. It didn't scream homage. It whispered alignment. As the tournament unfolded, Coco's braids became part of her rhythm. Between points, she adjusted them almost absent-mindedly, a physical reminder to reset, breathe, and stay present. When matches grew tense, when momentum wavered, the discipline stitched into her appearance echoed back to her mindset. This was not about superstition. It was about symbolism. In tennis, margins are microscopic. Confidence can tilt a set. Calm can steal a break. Coco understood that every detail mattered, especially the ones that grounded her emotionally. If thinking about Sinner's composed demeanor helped her access that place, then it was worth weaving into her preparation. Creativity, after all, is not limited to artists and poets. Athletes create constantly. They create routines, identities, rituals, and meanings. Coco Gauff's Australian Open hairstyle was a small act of creation, but it carried a universe of intention behind it.